Planning on traveling this summer? Make saving at the pump part of your plans with 2 times the fuel points from Harris Teeter. It's easy. Download your eVic coupon, and for every $1 you spend with your Vic card, you'll get 2 fuel points. That's up to $1 per gallon on quality fuel at participating BP and Harris Teeter fuel centers. Download your eVic coupon today and save money at the pump all summer long with eVic and Harris Teeter fuel points.
Now at Mickey D's, when you buy any crispy chicken sandwich or quarter pounder with cheese, you'll get a free medium fry and free medium drink when you order on the app. So do you have the app? How are you going to get this deal if you don't have the app? I know you have a phone. Anywho, if you have the app, enjoy your free fries and drink. If you don't, you can't see me, but know that I'm shaking my head. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Limited time only at participating McDonald's. Valid 1 time per day. Visit McDonald's app for details. Download and registration required.
Welcome to the Unscripted podcast. My name's Corby LaCroix, and the song you're hearing right now is called Great and Mighty One, available on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you get your music. But for now, here's your host and my friend, Aaron Conrad.
Great Redeemer, God of grace.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Unscripted from my studios in Old Hilliard. Exciting day today, as always, because my guest today, actually, let me just let my guest introduce himself, and then we will go from there.
I'm Sammy Sass. I'm a Upper Arlington grad. I currently play baseball at Wright State University, so I'm excited to be on.
He's excited to be on. He's sitting in a room, and he is a Duke fan. Let's just establish this right away. I wore the Carolina hat because he is a Duke fan. He's sitting in a North Carolina room with a host family for his summer ball, and it's killing him. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's fair to say. A huge Duke basketball fan, I would say. So yeah. I'm staying in a room, and the whole wall is decked out in North Carolina basketball stuff. So it's interesting. It's fun. No, my host family is awesome, and they joke about it too. I like high state football as well, and they're Michigan football fans, North Carolina basketball fans. So I don't think it could get any worse, to be honest.
So, was there like a form? We'll get into where you're at and what you're doing now, kind of later in the interview. But was there like a form that you filled out that said, "Hey, I like these things," and or apparently not, because they put you in maybe the worst situation possible?
No, they just put you like the people that they just asked to host, and it happened. But no, they're great host family. Like they're awesome. It's just funny how it ended up like that. But no, they're great. So it's always funny. I've been sleeping in about a week and a half now in a room filled North Carolina basketball. So I sleep right next to it. I'm on that wall too and everything. They made sure I got that bed because I'm staying here with the buddy too. They made sure I got that bed right next to all that stuff.
I might actually send them some Hilliard Davidson gear just to complete the circle. Like with that.
Yeah.
No. You might as well, right? All right. So let me start at the very beginning, because we put our kids. So again, we're at Hilliard Davidson, which is, I guess, somewhat of a rival with UA. I mean, same conference, whatever. So when our kids were little, we put them in a travel basketball league, and I was an assistant coach, just helping out, whatever. And our son was in one of those leagues, and there was 4 travel UA teams that we had to face. And so this is in 4th grade, so we're going back a minute, but 4th grade, and I hated playing against, actually all 4 of those teams would typically beat us, but there was one that had this little kid with a number 23 jersey, and I hated the coach, and I hated playing that team because they always killed us. And I say that very much tongue in cheek because the coach has become a good friend of mine, and you know who that team was. It was your dad and you, and we always knew, man, 23 was going to carve us up down the lane. There was nothing we could do to stop it. And so anyway, we go back a ways, and it's been fun to watch your journey as an athlete. Again, I was doing it more as a competitor against you, not myself, but our teams would compete against you. And then, my son and you're the same age. So we watched you football, basketball, baseball. And so I kind of want to get into that a little bit, but first thing I wanted to ask you was, and that carried over into baseball, because you guys competed against each other on the baseball field growing up too. And I'm like, man, I got to get rid of this kid because he's killing us in every sport that we play. So, and then your dad was always there somewhere too. Like I said, we've become good friends. All right. What I want to ask you was with Upper Arlington, there was, as we said, 4 travel teams. I think we had 1 in Davidson because there's 3 high schools. So Upper Arlington, multiple elementaries, 2 middle schools. Is that right?
2 middle schools. Yep.
2 middle schools, 1 high school. So I think your path was already competitive. Was that fair to say? Because you knew you had to be good if you're going to play for UA because there's a lot of competition there. Is that fair to say?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Did that drive you?
Yeah, I would say. Yeah, well, with like the whole like there's 4 teams when we were in 4th grade growing up. Like you're right, like we only have 1 high school like that. That was just a lot of kids like trying to compete and play basketball. My dad, we always had a team. He coached when we were younger because he played basketball in college, so he would coach. So yeah, he really drove like the competitive like nature into me. Like you could tell that he loved basketball. Like it was his sport. It's what, I mean, he knows about football and baseball, don't get me wrong, but basketball is like his specialty. And just being able to play for him at a young age, like he drove the competitive spirit and like all that stuff into me. And like he's not much of like a skills guy either. Like if I were to make a physical mistake, like that's not what would upset him. It was always like the mental, or if I wasn't in it, wasn't competing enough, that was like the thing that would get him riled up. So it's like learning from a young age that like whatever I do and whatever sport it was, like playing basketball for him, like he would make sure I was on my A game, like competitive, ready to go every time. So yeah, playing for him. And then like we'd always get new players because it was like 4th, 5th, 6th, all the way up until middle school. It was like you get there's 4 teams and there's a bunch of coaches. So I mean, we had our set of players. Like I would always play for my dad just because it was my dad and stuff like that. But he would always we'd always get a different team and meet new people. So yeah, that was a good time. And like competing when we were that young against like all that. I remember playing all the Hilliards and the Dublins and all those teams. It was like we're playing really good teams. And like I remember you guys, like it was never fun playing you guys and stuff like that. It was always just a scrappy game, like competitive, and everyone was out there to compete. So it was good stuff.
Yeah, it was honestly, it was great training because you remember the teams. You know, the idea when we did that was we put those kids together, and actually it was in the 3rd grade. We put them in a 4th grade league, and we got killed every game that first year, but they learned a lot. And that team stayed together, and you played against them in high school. That's that core of that team that went all the way to I think it was Sweet 16, Austin's senior year. That team played together for so many years. They just knew each other. You know, they were a somewhat of a brotherhood. And for you guys, you had 4 teams, which kept dwindling down as you went through the ranks. But, you know, UA was always good and always a tough game for, you know, whether it was travel or even in high school.
Yeah, for sure. I remember like just like playing you my senior season. It was like playing that same team in 4th grade. I think in the UA's program with those 4 teams, when it really like shallowed down because most of the guys that I played with in those 4th grade, like I think maybe one of them I played with in high school, maybe 1 or 2, like with Josh Russian and Max Martz. And like, I didn't really play that much with those guys because Josh was never on our team and neither was Martz. They always got sent to like a different team, but we had played summer and together when we would, after those 4 teams, we would always play like 2 or 3 tournaments with like the UA team that had like just the best players out of all 4. We'd always play. So I got to play with a little bit with Martz and Russian and that stuff. So that was good. But yeah, that Hilliard Davidson team, like that 4th grade team that your guys' senior year, they were just same team, just all grown up.
all and all tall. I mean, the average height of that team was amazing. So it was.
Oof. Yeah. It was. I remember when we played you guys, it was like that match we had. I don't know if I was the smallest guy. I don't think I was, but I was guarding Dres or whatever. He's like 6'7". He's like the point guard or whatever. And I was just like, Oof.
Yeah, yeah, that lineup was huge, and so let me mention it because, and I was going to get to it later, but let me mention it because I was sitting with your dad at a game at Davidson, and I'll leave names out for reasons, but competitive game, and so your dad and I were sitting like right at the half court. I was on one side, he was on the other, but we were sitting together, and competitive game, competitive gym, and I love me some Davidson basketball, and I love our fans and the den as we call it now, but. Man, they were getting on you. And I remember earlier in the game, at some point, you were inbounding a ball right inside it, right on the baseline, and just the fans are right there, and they were really getting on you. And to your credit, you just inbounded the ball, didn't say anything, you just did your thing. Well, I mean, that game comes down to a steal by none other than you, and a layup, which ended the game. And I remember at some point you didn't do anything demonstrative or anything like that, and your dad was like, that's not okay. I was like, man, he earned that. Like, I remember telling him, I said, man, they were getting on him earlier, and it's a fair game in my opinion. You took a lot of heat that game and during the game, and then you make the game-winning play. You've earned it. You earned the right to. Again, it wasn't anything demonstrative. It was just you celebrating, and I'm like, man, that guy's got every right to do that. And so, I don't know why I remember that, but I do because you had earned it.
That was a fun game. I remember that, and what actually there was a lot of football guys that were right there, and they had all known me because I was the quarterback and stuff. Well, that. My senior season, I had broken my collarbone. We were having an outstanding year. Like the year looked really promising, and I'd broken my collarbone, and the season went a little bit south after that. No diss to anyone, but just kind of went downhill, and it was looking promising. Our offense was I wouldn't say it was based around me, but it really was just because I was like the mobile quarterback. I was running, I was throwing, so we had a lot of that stuff, and our backup quarterback was a little bit different, so it was kind of like a whole 360. But they were giving it to me like the whole game, and I remember I made that play, and they were just on me all game, and I was like, I gotta say something. I gotta say something. And like with me, like when I'm so competitive, like that's like everyone who described me, it's like he wants to win and he wants to win everything. And I told him they're all there in the first row, and I told him, and I said, "You're lucky I wasn't there for football," is what I told him. Because I mean, there's no going back. I was done with football. But I told them that, and it was cool though. They tipped their cap. They didn't say anything back after I got the steal and the lay in. And I mean, I talk to some of those guys day to day now too and stuff like that. But like heat of the moment with me, I don't. Maybe not as much as a filter as I should, just because the competitor I am and the way I was brought up. But I do remember that.
Yeah, well, and I love that. There's a gene I think that's in your nature that like I told your dad, you earned it. It'd be different if you hadn't done anything the whole game, or you just went over and you started yelling, or you were standing on the score table. I mean, it was within the context of the game. It was within healthy competition, and like you said, they're friends. You talked to some of the guys, so everybody understood it, and I was cool with it. I'm like, man, he earned that. He worked hard the whole game, and it ended up going in UA's favor. So I don't know how we got on that, but I just always remember it was a memory I had. So all right, what's the greatest advice that you have? So again, in case nobody is aware, you played football, baseball, and basketball, and played them all at the highest level in a very competitive high schools. I think is what we're trying to establish here. This wasn't just some small school where anybody can just make the team. You're playing at the highest level with one of the highest level programs in the area, at least. And what's your best advice for a high school athlete that has, what did you learn? Like what, I don't even know what the question I'm trying to ask is, but how were you able to do that? Some of it you just mentioned your competitive nature, but you started early. Like, what's your best advice for any high schooler listening right now in a competitive situation?
I would just say, like, stay the course. Like, it was never easy. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that I easily played 3 sports at that high level and stuff. Like, there was times it wasn't easy. Like, I had to sacrifice time, all that stuff. So, it wasn't all rainbows and all that stuff. Like, it was tough. It was a grind. I mean, if you look back, middle school basketball, I really didn't play, like at all. Like I got a few minutes here and there, and And that's the situation where I was talking to my dad. I'm like, Dad, like I'm playing 3 sports right now, and like I'm not playing, like I'm not happy about it. And and rightfully so, I should have been out there. There was about 7 or 8 guys that played in front of me in middle school basketball. Not one of them ever played a varsity basketball minute, I don't think. Besides Max Martz. Max Martz, great basketball player, plays at Penn right now. A lot. And I told my dad, it's just like, it was so frustrating. It was a little bit political on the side of UA and what they had going over there. But I get to high school basketball, and I told my dad, I was like, Dad, I don't know if I want to play basketball. Like I'm playing baseball and football. And he says, and thankfully he said, go to tryouts, see how you like it, do this, do that. If you don't like it after your freshman year, then we can call it quits. Just like you have middle school basketball and high school basketball is different. So that's just one thing I'll never forget. Like that's just like one thing that like drives me a little bit, because I didn't play at all on middle school, and I get to high school and I make the JV team randomly. I just make the JV team with Russian, one of my other buddies, Mark's mates varsity. And it was like, well, how did I go from not playing very much my 7th and 8th grade year to making JV? I ended up starting JV that year and sitting varsity by halfway through the end of the year, which was awesome. And then ended up playing a little bit my sophomore year, being a full-time starter my junior and senior year. And like that path was not all rainbows and stuff like that. And it was just, you just gotta stay the course and keep. And I'm glad my dad helped me kind of just see and like do that stuff. But the high school and middle school programs were a lot different. Coach Casey, huge competitor, saw the competitive nature in me, which I really like thank him for that, because he helped me and continue to play basketball and stuff like that. With the football side is good. I love playing 3 sports. Like it was the greatest thing I ever could have done. It was the greatest thing my dad could have ever pushed me to do, because one, I never had an off season. So like it was like hang up the cleats, put on my basketball shoes, then put on my baseball cleats, then like do it again. And it was like year round. And so like for 365 days a year, like I was competing in the games, and it kind of just put inside my head, like whenever you go out, like you're competing. So I was competing every day. It was like what I love to do, no matter what sport it was. But like I said, like it wasn't just gliding right through everything. Like it was tough. There was you talk about summer ball for baseball, like a lot of kids, they hang out and like they have their high school, they go on high school trips for summer and all that stuff. It's like I sacrifice time with my friends and my family to go play baseball, and you know how that is, and stuff like that. And I was doing that year round with basketball, and my family, it would go on vacation. It was like, oh, I got this, I got that, like with baseball. So it was a grind for sure, but like it's something I just love to do. Like I love playing basketball, I love playing football, and I love playing baseball, and mostly I just love to compete. So that was just like, I loved it. I mean, high school, it was just really fun because I was just always playing in games. Like there really was no practice for me. It was mostly just games, and then football, we had practice through the week and all that stuff. But like most of the time I was just playing and competing, and it was great, but it wasn't easy by any means.
Well, and the reality is you were playing in games that were all meaningful. Like from the very beginning, every game, especially for UA, every game matters. Like not that it doesn't matter in other places, but you know, sometimes it's like a scrimmage or whatnot. I mean, you know, UA is always playing at the highest level against the highest teams, highest competition. And so you always had to be on your A game. And I have to think that carried over into our next conversation. But at some point there was a pivot. So did you play, you couldn't play AAU baseball or basketball because you were playing baseball, right?
So what I would do was we'd have weeks off. We'd have like a random 1 or 2 weeks off in summer baseball, and I would go play for whatever team wanted me. So, wow,
man, alive.
So I think I played here and there.
Yeah, because that was a decision Austin always had to make, and eventually he just made the one to not play basketball anymore and focus on baseball in the summers. But all right, so at what point there had to be a pivot, and I want to move into your recruiting a little bit. because you were highly recruited in 2 sports, essentially, maybe 3, probably all 3, right? What? So you tell me, what was the recruiting like?
It was basketball. It wasn't much.
Okay.
There was some things here and there that had popped up. Nothing big at all. But by my freshman and sophomore year of high school, I knew I was going to play baseball. So anything basketball related, I kind of pushed away. And then for football, I had my senior year, after we had those good couple games, I'd gotten a lot of interest after that, but I ended up breaking my collarbone. I knew I was a baseball player by then, so it was kind of early. I knew baseball was where the money was going to be and what I wanted to do. But I definitely got interest in that from schools on those other sports.
So when did you know baseball? You said you knew. What was that decision? Like, when did you know, like, this is my sport?
I would just say like my 8th grade and freshman year, around there, like, because we were playing on a really good summer team with like the best players in Ohio. Yep. I believe best players in Ohio, and I was just getting a lot of looks, a lot of recruits early at like a really young age. Big Ten, SEC, some of those schools reaching out when I was only a freshman in high school, and that's kind of when I knew that like that was my best chance. Growing up, it's funny. Growing up, baseball is my least favorite sport. It was the slowest, and I couldn't do it. Like I had to. Like I loved basketball and football. I loved being able to go hit somebody or go run around the court until I dropped dead. And baseball is just really slow, but like I was always really good at it. So I kind of just grew and like learned the game a lot more. Had a lot like different coaches like explain. I learned it a lot more, and I started to like it. And so that's how that kind of worked out.
So and you are a catcher, play some outfield as well, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, just so anybody doesn't know. I know because you were the very team you mentioned. My son had the opportunity, the blessing, honestly, the honor to play on that team for 2 years, and he is a pitcher and you are a catcher. And you know that honestly, man, I got to tell you, it goes back to the 4th grade conversation. You know, always watching you, I'm like, man, this kid's really good. His dad drives me crazy. No, I'm kidding. I just know your dad's listening, right? He just rolled his eyes right now. But no, I love your dad genuinely. But you know, always playing against you, I always had that healthy respect of, man, this kid's really good. Like it's, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then I got the opportunity to see you and Austin work together as a pitcher catcher combo. And I have to tell you, you know, he came to the team late. That team had been around for a long time, played together, almost like those travel teams we talked about. The nucleus was set, and, you know, he's a new player on that team. And even his first outing, we were just talking about the other day, his first outing was a train wreck. I think he was incredibly nervous because of the talent on the team. And, you know, anyway, I just always appreciated how you treated him with respect. You all have a kind of a friendship. I got to tell you, he watches a lot of Wright State games even to this day. He's not doing or watching a lot of baseball, but he does watch Wright State. And I think that goes back to the connection that you guys had, you know, after ball games, basketball games, you know, just everybody else was a handshake. You guys just had something special there. And so I wanted to tell you that I appreciate that about you and how you welcomed him to the team. And honestly, nursed him through games as a pitcher. And that's the job of the catcher, I think, is to get your pitcher in the right mindset, keeping him pumped up. And I appreciate that about you and how you handled that. Yeah, no,
I love Austin. There's always, like you said, there's always been that mutual respect. When he had that Davidson jersey on, I had that Arlington jersey on. It was a different story, but when that clock hit 0, that's a really good friend of mine. So yeah. I'm really going to show respect and stuff like that. And no, it was awesome. It was a blessing for us to have him on our team because he always did a great job. Like you said, he had a shaky outing to start, a little nervous, but whatever. That's one game out of 7,000 that he's ever played. So, right. No, that's really good stuff. And that's something I kind of pride myself on too. Is you talked about the pitcher catcher thing. It's like, that's what I'm there for. That's truly what you said. Like, I'm there to walk that dog, is what my dad always says, is walk that dog. Help them out in any way that they need. Steal strikes for them, block balls for them. Let them trust you. Let them trust what you're calling down the throw and stuff like that. So that's always been you go back to the whole 3 sports thing too. It's like I played catcher, point guard, and quarterback. Right. So I was always like in control, like, and that's what I loved about like playing all those, is I was the leader on the field when in all those positions. So that's one of the things I pride myself on too, is like being in that leadership role, as I love that more than anything. So
that's amazing, man. Because that, again, I think that's a gene. It's the way you were raised. It's your dad and his influence and others, coaches that you've had. But I think there's a gene that's what was interesting about the team that Austin got the opportunity to play on, is pretty much everybody on that team had that gene, that competitive nature, that most of them played multiple sports. I've told Austin that many times, I don't know that you'll ever play on a better team than that. I mean, it was loaded. It was a very good team. But so I want to go to so as people are listening, now we're transitioning from high school to college. What's your best advice for recruiting? Because that's a process, man. It's a process, and you were going through it in 2, maybe 3 sports. But what's your best advice in recruiting for any high school player right now listening?
Yeah, I would just say you gotta listen. You really gotta listen. So when you've shown coaches that you have the skills, whatever, they're gonna contact you, and you really just gotta listen what they have to say. Like for instance, like for me, like Wright State, like what I heard from their coaches and compared to different coaches, to me, Wright State was just different. It stuck out. What they said, it just stuck out to me, and I really enjoyed like having a conversation with the guy that recruited me from Wright State. Like our conversations were just different than other schools. That's how I knew Wright State was like the place for me, because I talked to them on the phone a few times. I go on a visit, and it was very business-like. A lot of other schools that I had gone to were trying to sell me on school, like girls, even parties, like they, like not directly doing that, but that's what they preach. Like we have this, like we have. I remember one school was like, we have the #1 hottest girls ranked in like America. And they're trying to get me there on that, when Wright State had basically just gone and talked to me about baseball and my future and getting drafted in the future, what they're going to do to make sure that I get better here. And it was just different. So like from what I heard from them compared to different schools, I knew that what my goals and aspirations are lined up to what they had to me. And that's why I knew Wright State was the best program for me. And it was a great decision. So just being able to listen, and like, cause you'll know if you have a connection or not. I knew that there was always something in my mind. I was like, man, like Wright State's the place. And after they had offered me done all that stuff, I talked to a few more schools, and every time we'd go visit a place and I'd get offered, my dad would be, how'd you like it? And I was always, And he's like, what do you mean? And I was like, I don't think it's better than Wright State. I don't think it's this and that. And eventually, like, thankfully, my dad was just like, hey, it was like the 3rd or 4th school I had got offered from after Wright State has offered me. And every time it was just like, it wasn't as good as this. It wasn't as good as this. And he told me one time, he was just like, hey, man, he's like, you keep saying it's not as good as Wright State. I don't think anything's going to get better than Wright State. Like, what are you waiting for? Like, what are you waiting for? Like, are you looking for something else? And honestly, after thinking about that, it's like, no, I'm not. Like, I knew that was the place, and I ended up committed. So just listening, like you will know, and you will understand what people have to say and what lines up to your goals and stuff. So just listening for me is probably the biggest advice.
I think it's great advice, because I mean, I think ultimately it's always about fit. And you know, now with the transfer portal and so many other things, to your point, I think a lot of athletes choose the girls or the parties or the stadium or the color of the uniform or whatever it might be, man. Everybody makes their own choice for whatever reason, but fit, I think, is so important because we see so much of it changing today. So, thank you for that. So transitioning to your freshman year, I was trying to look at the stats this morning. 1 game? Did you guys get 1 game because of COVID, right?
So I had gotten redshirted.
Okay.
So my coach had told me, hey, for right now, we're not going to give you any like scrappy at bats because what's the point? We had a really good catcher who got signed by the Texans in front of me. They also had a backup, and I was a little bit more raw than I was now. Wasn't as physically mature. Hit the weights really hard, but there were some injuries. People went down, and I started one game. I got 5 at bats, 1 walk, so technically only 4 at bats. And then that following day where I finally got that start, I went 2 for 4, had a double, had a pretty good game. I DH'd. The very next day we got up, we went to practice, and that was the COVID day that they shut everything down.
So what did you do? You probably had to go home, right? Because Wright State probably shut down too.
Mary redeemed a $50,000 cash prize playing Chumba Casino online.
I was only playing for fun, so winning was a dream come true.
Chumba Casino is America's favorite free online social casino. You too could have the chance to win life-changing cash prizes. Absolutely anybody could be like Mary. Be like Mary. Log on to ChumbaCasino.com and play for free now. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details. The voice in the preceding commercial was not the actual voice of the winner.
I didn't go home. I went home a little bit, but I live in an apartment.
Okay.
It's technically off campus. It's right on campus, but it's technically off campus. So I lived in an apartment, so I was able to stay there. So yeah, I stayed there and trained with our assistant coach, who's now the assistant coach at Indiana.
Okay.
His name's Zach Weatherford. I trained over there at a place that had opened up to baseball complex type deal in Dayton, and at the time it was the only thing open. The reason I wasn't at home is because everything was shut down at home.
Right.
So he had got that place to open, and so we went there and trained every day. It was a few of my teammates from Wright State as well, and so I stayed and trained there with him. We hit every day, lift every day for the most part, all that stuff. So that's what I did during COVID. And honestly, for COVID, the biggest thing that helped me was I just got a very quick glimpse of what it was like and what it took to play and to succeed there.
Right.
And that's what helped me going into technically my freshman year because of COVID, because we got that whole year back. Going into that fall, I had a way different perspective than what I had in high school.
That's so interesting. So that set the bar for you. You knew what the bar was. If I'm going to compete at this level, you got a taste of what it was going to be like.
Yes.
Wow.
And I really figured it out after that. I took what I had and just ran with it. And but COVID obviously was a tough time for everyone,
right.
No doubt. But for me, I don't. That time that COVID took helped me a little bit. Yeah, I think it helped me get in the weight room and get stronger and go back to that next year. And it obviously, what I said with the taste, I knew what I figured out what it took from that fall and early spring, and I got to go down, and I think we played at Mississippi State, and where else we play? Mississippi State, Tennessee, Louisville. Some really cool atmospheres, really good team. We beat number 1 Louisville freshman year, and I saw that for those 3 weeks I think we played. I got to see that, and it kind of just clicked a little bit. And then I got that time to kind of take off, and then we show back up for the next fall, and I think a different me came in.
Well, I think that we talked about, again, that gene for some people would have been like, this sucks and I'm going to go home and do whatever. And, maybe I'll come back next year. For you got that competitive gene in you that's so interesting that you said that about setting. You got the taste of it. You got to see it. And now you knew, when I come back, whenever this is over, I'm coming back better, stronger, and ready. And you did. Yeah. So your statistics actually back that up. You came back sophomore year and pretty much your freshman year, but technically your second year, and pretty much exploded on the seed. I mean, what I have is 44 games. You hit 362, 12 home runs, and 60 RBI. Is that about right?
Yeah, it sounds right.
So you exploded on the scene, and you were now what I'm quoting ESPN. ESPN's coverage of your game, you are now Slammin' Sammy Sass is the nickname that they gave you. And during the game, during this year's CWS, they said that it was the best nickname in college baseball. I don't remember the commentator's name, but she said that. And I was like, that's awesome. So I said it to your dad. I said, you got to, because he was at the game, and I actually sent him a screenshot of, I think it was a reverse call that happened in one of the games or one of the reviews. And there was a pan of the crowd, and your whole family was there. So I screenshot it, sent it to him. But anyway, all right. So then you come back for your junior year, and now you've had this success. You came back for the year you just had. And I think there was a lot of, were you preseason?
Yeah.
Okay. What was that? Because I was trying to find, I can't remember.
I was preseason player of the year.
Player of the year. As a quote unquote sophomore.
Yeah.
But in your third year, preseason player of the year, that's huge expectations to put on you.
Yeah. It's something I really didn't try to worry about. Preseason stuff is all just numbers from last year. So I really didn't worry about it. I was just trying to, we were just trying to make a regional and win a regional as a team. And that was really our goal, and kind of all that stuff outside is just extra noise. So.
Did you guys make a regional the year before? You did, right? You had a pretty good run. I'm trying to remember.
The
sophomore
freshman year. Yeah.
Your technical freshman.
Yeah, that's when we went to Tennessee and lost that Friday game on the walk-off home run.
Right. I remember that now. Okay. But that was, you mentioned the environment, because I watched it closely this year. The environment that was crazy was Tennessee, and Oklahoma State's environment is insane. I mean, the stadiums are bigger. The following seems to be bigger than you're in North Carolina right now. I mean, a beautiful stadium, but it's not nearly as big as some of those other stadiums. Some of those environments are wild to play in.
Yeah, we played at some really cool places. I think if we go by crowd, that Tennessee game was by far the craziest atmosphere I've played a baseball game in. I mean, that place sold out in under 24 hours.
Wow.
And was just, I mean, that field too, that they're pretty on top of you. Like it's not like they're far back. Like there's not much of a foul territory, and they're on you. Place was sold out. And it was loud. It was loud, and it was a fun game to play in, fun atmosphere, a bunch of cool places as well. Like you said, Oklahoma State. I mean, that facility is nothing short of amazing. Yes. I mean, that place, I believe it's a $60 million complex or something like that, somewhere around there.
Right.
It's that we were down there for 3 or 4 days. It snowed there when we went down there. So we were just, they were awesome with us, and they let us train in their facilities when they weren't. And I mean, that place is top notch for sure.
Yeah.
Not only the field, but the complex around it is. It
was amazing to see on TV. So we talked about fourth grade. We talked about Davidson and that crowd, and you played for UA, so you played in some high level games which had big crowds. Did that prepare you for those type of crowds, or is it completely different?
I just think if you let the crowd kind of dictate what you do or how you play, it shouldn't be like that. I think what translated the most was how many big important games that I played in.
Moments,
like you mentioned earlier, is like big moments. Mm-hmm. And from a young age, just like, I want the ball in my hands when it matters.
Right.
If it was basketball, football, whatever, if it was baseball, I know you can't control it, but there's always something like I wanted to be up if it was bases loaded, 2 outs, full count in a championship game, down 1, whatever. Like I've always wanted the control or the ball in my hands, whatever, in the big situation. And I think that has carried over more than playing in big atmospheres, because like you said, like you play in a Tuesday night game versus the worst team in your league.
Right.
You should still compete as hard in that game than you would in the Horizon League championship game. And that's just how our coaches preach. They talk about that, and just like growing up, I remember it's funny. I think one of the biggest things I've taken from Coach Casey, Upper Arlington's basketball coach, is he would always preach that we'd be playing like a bad team on a Tuesday night, and he'd be in the locker room before the game, and we're all like, hey, like we can go out here, play an average game and still win by 20. Mm-hmm. And he's in the locker room firing us up like we're about to go out and play in NBA Finals Game 7.
Right.
And I mean, there was times that he would get on us. I remember we were playing one of the more worst teams in our league, and we weren't playing very good in halftime. And Casey comes in, and he told us like he wasn't happy. He was mad. Like I think we were up 20 points at halftime, and he's just you're playing like you're sloppy or this. And that's one of the big things I've taken from him is like being able, like I always refer to that, playing the Tuesday night game where no one's in the crowd.
Yeah.
No one really cares. Everyone knows you're going to win. If you lose, you look stupid. He would make sure that we were ready to go. And that's a big thing that I take every day now.
Yeah.
That if I need to approach we're playing the last place team for nothing, or we're playing in a regional, like my competitive spirits and the way I'm playing should be the same. So that's kind of one of the big things I would say almost over like atmospheres is just like game to game. You gotta like, no matter what the game circumstances, where we're at, like to be able to compete and put your best foot forward is like one of the things I think I've learned growing up. Like that is like more important than anything else.
When you're in a situation like that, and that was amazing what you just said, because what you've learned is you've taken nuggets and teaching from all the people that have coached you, and now you're building your own, and one day you'll may coach or, coach your son or, or daughter, maybe whatever, you will now invest that back to someone else, which is why the games, all of them, football, basketball, baseball, are so beautiful, is because we can give that back from all the people that invested in us.
I think that's great. What you said is like from all the sports I've played and from how many different coaches I've had to take different pieces and build and stack and build like what I've learned, because so many of them have taught me so many different things. And I think that's the biggest thing about playing 3 sports for me is that everything carried over. Like there wasn't like, if I learned something in basketball, like that didn't just stay with basketball. It always carried, whatever it was, if it was about competing, all that stuff, it was always just different coaches telling me different things, and I took them in different ways and just kind of ran with them. And like like Coach Casey, basketball coach, he installed when I played basketball, I mean, I loved basketball, but I knew it wasn't something I was going to do through college and all that stuff. So sometimes I'd find myself maybe a little bit more lazy than I should have been, little stuff. And he wouldn't let that stuff slide. So like the hard work that he taught me, all my baseball coaches teaching me the skills and all that stuff. And then with my football coach, like all those like people have like definitely taught me so many things that like right now, like I'll remember stuff my football coach said to me 3 years ago, like all the time, and it complies and it works with my baseball right now. So that's the biggest thing I think I've gotten from 3 sports, other than to learn just like how to compete and how to do that, is like I've had so many different coaches in every sport that I've just learned so much, and it's really helped me.
It's awesome, and it's amazing because you see it in your game. And we you've given me a ton of time already, so I have a couple quick questions for you. One is when you're now, as you know, because you said you were a listener, so as you know, I'm a former intramural champion, and those games get heated. But I'm kidding. I was never in a situation where I'm up at bat, as you said, 3-2 count, games on the line. You're at Oklahoma State. Crowd's going crazy. Do you even hear the crowd at that point? I've always wondered that in any of those situations, NBA Finals, NCAA tournament, when Caleb Love hit the shot to knock Duke out of the tournament. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No, anyway, in those moments, right? Huge crowd. There's all that noise. How much does the player on the court, the field, the football field, at the plate, do you really hear it? Like, I don't know. You've been in the experience. I haven't. I've never been in the arena, so to speak.
Yeah. So for me, it's different. It's different for each sport. So baseball, I can't hear a thing. If I'm in the batter's box, nothing. I'm so focused like on what he's doing and what I'm trying to do. Like, I'm so locked into a tee because with baseball and hitting, you got to be so spot on to hit that ball. Like, everything's got to be right. So you have to be so focused that I can't hear a thing. But I remember playing in basketball games, big basketball games. I just think because, like, you have so, like, with baseball, it's so much different is, like, in that big situation, you don't want to get sped up. You want to slow everything down. So, like, you're really just like, okay, like, you're taking deep breaths. You're finding that focal point on your bat. You're stepping into the box. You're doing what you always do, and you're slowing everything down.
Yeah.
I think with, like, basketball, everything's so fast, and you're running, and you have so much adrenaline that you hear the crowd getting louder, I think.
Yeah.
If it's a big situation, something's happened, I think you hear a little bit more of that. So I think it just depends on the sport, honestly. I mean, with football, you're just, as a quarterback, like, every time it was loud, I was just trying to scream over it. So that's a little bit different. But yeah, so just different sports. I mean, with baseball, you're so locked in that, like, you couldn't hear a thing. I mean, personally, I can't, but some people may think different. But I would think for the most part, like, because you're trying to slow everything down, that everything kind of just does slow down. And you don't hear anything because you're so focused. But I just think different sport, and just like that's one thing I feel like the big moment you're talking about. I think in any sport, in the big moment, that's what you have to do. Like, you have to slow it down and be in control of what you can do. So that's kind of the big thing. I think if you slow things down yourself, the environment won't. I mean, because if it was a 3-2 count, bases loaded, 2 outs, and I hear the crowd get up and go crazy, and I get energy from that. Oh yeah, okay. Now I'm gonna be super tense. I'm gonna swing super hard. I'm gonna be sold out fastball. If it's not a fastball, I'm gonna swing right through it. But what you want to do is just kind of breathe, take it slow, whatever. The crowd's crazy. You don't let it get to you. You be calm in the situation. You put your best swing on any pitch they throw and stuff like that. So I just think just not getting sped up in the moment and not hearing that stuff is probably the best. I personally I'm so focused that it shuts for me. So
yeah, well, that's great. It's great information, because I think I've seen that when I was watching the College World Series. You saw most of the hitters would step out, as you said, they hold that bat in front of them almost like a sword, and they're staring at the bat. And I'm always like, what are they saying to themselves in that moment? But excuse me, to your point, they're centering themselves and they're focused. I think that's so interesting. All right, I know you got to go because so I want to talk about where you are now. Summer. So you're playing summer ball. For those not familiar, what's that journey like?
Yeah, it's interesting. So when we finish our season, our recruiting coordinator will basically pick a spot for you to go play over the summer. Some summer leagues are very short and quick. Some go all the way to August. Depending on how many games you played, innings you pitch, innings you've caught, your coaches might put you on like a shorter leash in summer ball. But basically it's just to go. I mean, for kids who didn't play that much in the season, it's go out and get your innings in. Go out and play this year, come back better in the fall. For some people, it's, hey, just go maintain, go do this. And some people, they just shut down and don't even send anywhere.
Right.
But and some people, it's like, hey, go get seen by some scouts, go do this. So yeah, my coach, I was in an interesting little situation, just trying to figure out what I was going to do. If I caught almost 50 games this year, so I didn't know if I was going to go play, do whatever. Last minute decided I want to go play. My recruiting coordinator hooked it up here with Wilson, North Carolina, for the Coastal Plains League. And so I got here. I took a little bit of a rest just to get my body a little fresh.
Yeah.
After the season ended, I think I gave about a week and a half, and I came down here and started playing. And it's really cool. I mean, I'm playing with a bunch of guys from areas that, I mean, we have Texas, California,
Wow.
North Carolina, all these places. So it's really interesting. You go live with a host parents, like how we said. Someone opens their house for 2 kids to come in and then to live with this summer.
That's awesome.
So I thankfully got a great host family. Like I said, besides the North Carolina basketball and Michigan football, great host family.
Davidson baseball, please.
Yeah. And then I got a great roommate buddy who is a great player. So I was fortunate to come down, and you learn so much too, like your eyes and your ears, like you'll learn so much in the game from just watching and listening. And so you get a lot of different ideas. You see a lot of different guys that have a lot of different methods and are have a lot of different ethnicities or whatever they're doing, wherever they're coming from. So it's great. And like I said, like you make friends, you have a good time. It's in the summer, like you get to compete every day. It's for sure a grind. We play every day. We have 1 off day a week, but if you get a rain out that week, you play it on your off day. So you don't get many off days. But it's just another chance to go compete and play and meet new people. And baseball itself already to this point, hopefully I can get to the next level, but it's already let me meet so many different people, see so many different cultures and all that stuff. And so that's kind of where we're at now in Wilson.
Yeah. Well, and you were nice enough to give, this is your day off, and you were nice enough to give some of that time to me. So are you playing against Vance Honeycutt? Is he playing in that league?
Who?
Vance Honeycutt from North Carolina?
He might be if he's in the league. Okay. I'm not sure.
Okay.
There's so many different guys. We've definitely played a few kids from North Carolina because they come and they're flexing their North Carolina cleats, their Nike deal, their stuff like that. And I got my generic, whatever. But there's a lot of good players. Like there's a lot of SEC players in this league, ACC players.
It's great.
Florida's, but yeah, it's good. And you also got your Division II studs and your JUCO bandit, right-handed across body, like 94-mile-an-hour fastballs. Like you kind of get everything. So it's been good.
Well, you touched on it. What's so two last questions for you. The first one is, what's next? And I think that's probably the short one. And then, what's your biggest goal?
So what's next? Finish down here in North Carolina. Finish down here when I don't know if I'm gonna play full season, what I'm doing exactly yet. Just kind of monitor my body, make sure I'm feeling good. Hopefully can finish out a summer here, and then I'll have about 3 or 4 weeks before the fall. So those 3 or 4 weeks, I will not pick up a baseball for my arm. Because I've thrown about, I think 17, 18 straight weeks. Wow, man. Putting my arm through some stress. So I just want to give my arm a break, let that get fully recovered. And then I'll basically just weight train, try and put some more mass on. And then I'll get into the fall and then work hard there, and then get into the spring at Wright State and have a good season. And then that kind of gets into my ultimate goal, that I hope that after my next season here at Wright State, I have a good enough season that possibly that I can get drafted and all that stuff. So that's the ultimate goal. If not this year, hopefully next year, my name will be called sometime in the draft. That's my ultimate goal. I mean, I wouldn't say that's my ultimate goal, but I think having new goals all the time, like
strive for it, right? You
should be meeting your goals. Like I truly believe that I set goals that I can meet, and then when I meet one goal, I'll set another goal. So hopefully, right now my goal is to, one, work really hard up into the season,
Mm-hmm.
do the most I can do there, then have a good season, do my best, which you look at it now, I say have a good season, but that's going to come day to day within the season. So that's not something like I have my day-to-day goals. I have like my future goals, all that stuff. But so hopefully I'll get drafted. And then my next goal after that, say get drafted to get sent to rookie ball. It's going to be, hey, my new goal, make single A.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully I make single A. Double A is my next goal, double A. And then all the way up until hopefully I become a big leaguer one day. But yeah, that's just my goal. And I'm going to work really hard to do that. And it, like I said, nothing really comes easy.
Yeah.
I could sit here all day and say, yeah, that's my goal, but that's going to come with bumps in the road, and just being able to manage those and keep working through it. That's probably just one of the biggest things I've learned since being at Wright State. It was just like, and anything that I can do, I can work through it. There's going to be things that I'm not going to be able to control, and just being able to work through it is kind of just like a big thing I learned here, like work ethic, and being able to work for what you want. Like if you want it, work for it. Yeah. It's just one of the biggest things I've learned here. So yeah, that's where I'm going with my goals and stuff.
All right. So I'm going to close with a couple things. I want everybody to know that, I think any athlete, it's, you can be an athlete and then you can be, the whole package, I think is what I'm trying to say. And I think, for me, that's always been so impressive with you. You're the whole package, man. You're respectful. The fact that you're coming on this, thing today on a day off, your text to me, using just Mr. Conrad, things like that. Mr. Conrad's my dad, but just respect. And even within the game, we talked about that. Even competitive games, you treated the game with respect. And when the time was right, you got a chance to to say, hey, and again, that was fully within the context of the game, and I felt it was okay. Never flashy, never. Because I've watched you now, since, like we said, 4th grade, and not that I've been at every game, but the games that I have seen, you let your game do the talking, and I know you've got a great support system in your family. You've always got a platform with us anytime, and we've already talked about a few things, but you'll always have a platform with us, and we just want to see you succeed. And I know there's 2 fans of Wright State in our house that watch most of the games that we can, just to see how you do. So wish you nothing but continued success. And I really hope by the time you leave North Carolina, you're ready to maybe trade in the Duke Blue for the Carolina Blue.
Oh, no way.
Is that going to happen? Okay.
Definitely, I think before I drive back, I might go down and try and walk through Duke, see if I can get into Cameron Indoor or something. I might have to go try it, but and maybe I'll stop by Chapel Hill. It's not too far to drive, I guess.
Yeah. Well, if you go over, honestly, there's a lot of talent over there in their summer games that you might see some. There's a lot of NBA guys that come home and practice, sure. So you never know what you run into. The one time I've been to Duke, we couldn't get into Cameron Indoor. We just walked around the outside. But I did tell your dad you should go to the Carolina Museum, which is right next to the Dean Dome. You should do that either way, even if you're not a Carolina fan. There's a lot of history in there that's pretty cool to see. So anyway, man, we're proud of you. Awesome. We're proud of you, and I wish you nothing but success. Good luck today. I know you got a lot going on. That you were nice enough to give us some time. So.
I appreciate it. We got that busy schedule. They sent all that stuff out. We have to help we have to unload some food for charity and stuff like that. We originally set this up for 11. It's about 10:38 now. It's about to be 11, but after our game last night, which started at 7, so it didn't get done about 10:30. They had told us, hey, you got this, and that's when I hit you up. I was like, oh man.
It's all good.
I appreciate you being flexible. Absolutely. I really do. And I'm really glad to come on this. I've been wanting to for so long, but everything has just been so fast. I finally kind of got some free time and so like that. And it's awesome. I'm really happy I got to be on this and stuff, and what you do. I love listening to it. So Thank you. Really good stuff.
Thank you. Well, you guys are the best. Go do some stuff that's so cool, man, because even like that's part of the experience. Again, I think serving somebody else, man, that's just great training for the next, whatever that is in life. So that's really cool. You're getting the whole experience, but enjoy your time down in the beautiful God's country. And
I will.
And we will have you on again soon.
For sure. Looking forward to it.
All right, brother. We'll talk soon. Thanks so much.
All right. Have a good one.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Unscripted podcast. Make sure to like, share, follow, and review on your favorite podcast platforms. Also, make sure to check out my song Great and Mighty One on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you find your music. We'll see you next time on Unscripted with Aaron Conrad.
Mary redeemed a $50,000 cash prize playing Chumba Casino online.
I was only playing for fun, so winning was a dream come true.
Chumba Casino is America's favorite free online social casino. You too could have the chance to win life-changing cash prizes. Absolutely anybody could be like Mary. Be like Mary. Log on to ChumbaCasino.com and play for free now. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details. The voice in the preceding commercial was not the actual voice of the winner.